Honorable Director Research and Advanced Learning and Dean Dme Law School Professor Dr. Manjula Batra Ma'am, Honorable Director Dr. Ravikant Swami Sir, all head of the departments, parents, students and friends. I, Karishma, Assistant Professor, Dme Law School, is privileged to welcome you all in the orientation ceremony of BA LLB course. Swami Vivekananda said, education is the manifestation of the perfection already in a person, and we at DME aim to bring out this perfection in our students. Delhi Metropolitan Education is a premier educational institute affiliated to Guru Gobind Singh Indraprasth University, New Delhi, and approved by Bar Council of India. Encouragement, enthusiasm, and excellence are some of the important aspects of this institution. This institute imparts education in the fields of law, management, and journalism, and maintains an all-round approach to ensure constructive experience. The founding fathers of this institute have a background in education and are serving the industry for more than a decade. The orientation ceremony marks the beginning of the academic story of a student's life in college. So I now request the dignitaries to initiate this ceremony by lighting the lamp and offering prayers to Goddess Saraswati. Thank you so much, dignitaries. It gives me immense pleasure to announce the presence of one of the most appreciated and eminent personalities in the field of law. Please give a huge round of applause for Honorable Mr. Salman Khurshid sir. I now request our dignitaries to present our chief guest with a token of affection and honor him.
Pulkit.
I also request the dignitaries to kindly felicitate Mr. Gopal Das. Sir, please. Thank you so much. We are also privileged to have with us Professor Dr. Manjula Batra Ma'am. Ma'am has graced the Office of Dean, Faculty of Law, Jamia Millia Islamia twice. She was the chairperson of the Ordinance Committee of Jamia, member Academic and Executive Council of Jamia, and ma'am has been recently made a member of the core group of National Human Rights Commission, New Delhi. But at the core, ma'am is an erudite academician. Ma'am has almost 3 decades of teaching and research experience. She was Professor of Law and Director at the Vivekananda Institute of Professional Studies, IP University. Ma'am has numerous publications in the national and international journals of repute. Presently, ma'am is the Director Research and Advanced Learning and Dean, Dme Law School. I request ma'am to address the gathering and introduce our esteemed guest.
Thank you, Karishma. Good afternoon, everyone. Mr. Salman Khurshid, Senior Advocate, Supreme Court of India, and former Minister of Law and Justice. Mr. Vipin Sahni, Chairman, DME. Honorable Mr. Justice Bhavar Singh, former Judge of Allahabad High Court, Director General, DME. Professor Ravi Kant Swami, Director, DME. Dr. N.K. Behel, former Judge, District and Sessions Court, UP Judicial Service. Mr. Parashar, former Judge, District and Sessions Court, UP Judicial Service. The faculty members, the students, and parents, and the staff of DME. I welcome each one of you to celebrate the orientation program organized by the Dme Law School for the first-year students of the 5-year integrated BA LLB course. The aim of the orientation program is not only to acquaint the students with the law course, but also to create a platform to facilitate an interaction between the students, the faculty members, and the management of the Dme Law School. Before I delve further into the significance and importance of the orientation program, I take immense pleasure in introducing our guest of honor, Mr. Salman Khurshid, to all of you. Mr. Salman Khurshid is one of the finest lawyers and politicians that our country has ever had. His advocacy skills and wit are appreciated across the country. After completing his graduation from St. Stephen's College, University of Delhi, Mr. Khurshid went to England for higher studies. He pursued a course in law from the prestigious St. Edmund Hall, Oxford University, and taught at the renowned Trinity College, Oxford, for some time. Mr. Khurshid's political career began when, after completing his assignment at the Trinity College, he returned to India and joined the Prime Minister's office as an officer on special duty. It was here that he was to meet Shrimati Indira Gandhi, who was then the Prime Minister of India. Mr. Khurshid gradually built up his political career and he has held many important posts within the Congress as well as in the central government in the past. He is actually a socialist at heart. Over the years, he has been working consistently and tirelessly for the upliftment of the marginalized sections of the society. His contribution in the field of school education has been indeed commendable. In fact, as the president of the Delhi Public School Society, he played a major role in establishing many branches of Delhi Public School in India as well as abroad. He also helped in establishing in Mewat in Haryana 3 satellite branches of the Delhi Public School for the poor and the disadvantaged. Furthermore, his vision to impart modern education in Islamic schools has become the guiding spirit for other institutions of Muslims as well. He is also associated with many national and international associations involved in humanitarian work. Mr. Khurshid is a person who values culture and history deeply. He has taken some noteworthy steps for reviving and promoting Urdu language in the country. Being conscious of the fact that Urdu has been the language of national integration and that abandoning it would mean abandoning the history of 500 years, Mr. Khurshid has taken some special efforts to introduce Urdu as teaching as part of the curriculum in the education system. He himself is a prolific writer and has authored several books, such as At Home in India, If Winter Comes, and Beyond Terrorism, among others. Undoubtedly, Mr. Salman Khurshid is a role model for many to follow in the present generation and the generations to come. Mr. Khurshid, we are indeed indebted for having you with us today, despite your busy schedule. We also would like to thank you for being associated with DME for its growth and development. Thank you so much, sir. Now coming back to the orientation program, my dear students, I would like to say that you've taken admission in BA LLB Honours at Dme Law School, which is one of the very upcoming law schools in the country. And I assure you that we will be giving you quality teaching. We have a very good team of teachers here. You will be given opportunity to interact with them in class. And as a teacher at heart, I started my career as a teacher, became a professor, the other posts are all administrative. I would like to share with you that, in class you must be very active in asking questions. Because if it's a quiet class, if it's a dull class, the teacher also feels bored. So you must ask questions, make it vibrant, read a lot. Because law is very, very dynamic. It evolves, and you have to evolve with law. What law was 40 years ago is not the same today. We've got branches and offshoots to laws in so many fields. And the career opportunities which are there for you are plenty. You just have to pick and choose and find out your level where you stand. So I wish you all the best for the 5 years that you're being here. And I want to tell you, I'm accessible to you anytime you want, and even the teachers will be there for you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for such a warm welcome. DME feels proud to have Mr. Vipin Sahni as its chairman. Mr. Sahni has taken upon himself the mantle of an educationist to bring change in society by quality education in schools and colleges. Sir is the founding president of Mayur School, Noida, which was established in collaboration with the GC Mayo College, Ajmer. Sir is also the chairman of Sunshine Education and Development Society, which operates 2 institutes of higher education, Delhi Technical Campus and Delhi Metropolitan Education. So now I request our Honorable Chairman, sir, to kindly address the gathering.
Good afternoon, Mr. Salman Khurshid, my elder brother, my mentor. Justice Bhavan Singh, Dr. Swami, Dr. Manjula Batra, Mr. Behel, Mr. Prashar, all faculty members, my dear students and parents. I welcome you all to DME. Dear students, this day is about you. You have come to this college leaving all comfort of your home to become something in life. I am sure you are very excited. This excitement or spark is something you should hold on to. Be curious, be inquisitive, and make sure you don't let the spark die. Let me assure you that we at Delhi Metropolitan Education will ensure that we do everything possible to equip you with the best possible teaching resources, practical exposure, and training methods, so that you are able to shape your life and career for the challenging world out there. In our college, we believe in inspiring minds, improving their intellectual capacity, and building characters, which our students will treasure for their lifetime. Additionally, we endeavor to inculcate social values and principles of personal excellence and care for others. On your part, you have to make sure that you make the most of the opportunities provided to you. Don't be afraid to struggle. You have to realize that all struggles are making you a better and stronger person. Let me tell you a small story. A man found a cocoon of butterfly. One day a small opening appeared. He sat and watched the young butterfly for several hours as it struggled to force its body through the little hole, until it suddenly stopped making any progress and looked like it was stuck. The man with the kind heart decided to help the butterfly. He took a pair of scissors and snipped off the remaining bit of the cocoon. The butterfly then emerged easily, and although it had a swollen body and small shriveled wings, the man didn't think anything of it and sat there waiting for the wings to enlarge to support the butterfly. But that didn't happen. The butterfly spent the rest of its life unable to fly, crawling around with the tiny wings and swollen body. Despite the kind heart of the man, he didn't understand that the struggle needed by the butterfly to get itself through the small opening were nature's way of forcing fluid of the body of the butterfly to its wings to prepare itself for the flying once it was out of cocoon. You cannot change nature. Nature expects you to survive because you are the fittest. You all know the Darwin's theory. It's not the biggest animal which survived. It is not the most powerful which survived. It was the fittest who survived. So work hard, work smart, and stay focused to your goal. Don't be distracted. At this point, I would like to reinforce that at DME we have a zero tolerance to indiscipline. One suggestion that I would like, though I think parents are not many numbers, but then I think they'll pass on to others. One suggestion I would like to give to all parents is to take keen interest in your ward's academics and attendance. Be in touch with the professors. The college will also make sure that you get the regular updates about your child through messages. Before I finish, I would like to once again congratulate all the students. I'm certain that you would find these college years the most inspiring years of your life. I hereby wish you all a very happy and academically fulfilling journey ahead and an outstanding stay in the college. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the motivation, sir. Indeed, you have given us a vision and mission. DME also feels privileged to have with us Honorable Mr. Justice Bhamar Singh sir as our Director General. Sir is former Judge Allahabad High Court and he joined UP Judicial Services after obtaining Master's degree in Law. His Lordship praised the Office of Registrar General, Supreme Court of India. His Lordship was elevated to Permanent Judge of Allahabad High Court. During his tenure as a judge, Sir has been a part of many important cases, the most famous of which is the Ayodhya case. His Lordship adorned the august office of the Chairman, UP State Consumer Commission, and also Chairman, Judicial Training and Research Institute of UP. DME has greatly benefited with His Lordship's experience and guidance and counsel. Now I request our Honorable Director General Sir to kindly address the gathering.
Honorable the Chief Guest, Mr. Salman Khurshid, the Senior Advocate, Honorable Mr. Vipin Sahani, our Chairman, Dr. Ravikant Swami, Madam Manjula Batra, Professor Parashar, Dr. M.K. Behar, faculty members, dear students, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I am grateful to Mr. Salman Khurshid that he conceded my request to come and interact with you, boys and girls. Since he is a man of great experience, we could find no better person than him for interaction with you. Indeed, I am very grateful to him. Dear students, during the next 5 years, you will be in quest to find yourself. You will be old enough for introspection a retrospection, and you will take 5 years to explore yourself, your passion, your skills, your options, your habits, including that of reading, will make you a better person. Learn from others, but not blindly. Copy them for their success or failure, but don't do what feels right to you. Friends, Swami Vivekananda was referred to by our anchor person, Madam Karishma, and rightly at this juncture, there can be no better person to educate the society of his contemporary period. It is said that when he was staying somewhere in Uttarakhand, so he saw a very good library, and he sent for some books. Every evening his secretary will bring 3-4 books, and very next morning the secretary would return them. It happened for 3-4 days regularly. The librarian asked, "Your Sahab reads them or just passes the time by seeing the titles and the subjects?" So the secretary said, "You come to Sahab's chamber and then you will come to know yourself." Having a lot of inquisitiveness, he visited the great Swami, and he interacted. And when Swami Vivekananda came to learn that he has come to test your knowledge, then he said, "You put your finger on any page and I will tell it." And true to his words, he could tell, he could narrate anything of the books he has gone through. He has developed an art. After reading first 2 lines and the last 2 one on a page, he could tell what is written there. It was the depth of his knowledge. I wish you go and acquire that knowledge by devoting 5 years for your law education here in this Dme college. Friends, have company of good fellows, and Lord Krishna, while giving some sermons to Arjun, when the latter had laid down his arms, declaring that he was not going to fight with his own kith and kins, Lord Krishna said that believe in sensible living, not the senseless pleasures. And it was this and few more pitchings of Lord Krishna which ignited a fire of fighting in great Arjuna. So you never think of the senseless pleasures. Go for sensible living. Go for sensible thoughts. Always do good deeds. Follow the moral values. There can be a very huge and long definition of moral values. I am not going to details of them because I know you have to hear a wonderful orator after me, and everybody, my son who is a practicing advocate, he very often tells me that whenever Sir Salman Khurshid ji is to argue a very famous case, then people throng around to hear his arguments. My compliments to his abilities, to his worthiness, all his wisdom. And he indeed really, he speaks flowery. One can, I am reminded of an anecdote when our late Prime Minister Indira Gandhi went to America. perhaps I subject to correction that Nixon was the president of America. Seeing her personality, he fell short of words. And he simply could say, the daughter of so-and-so and the Prime Minister of India, and he fumbled with words. So his presence is again making me short of words, and his oratory, his knowledge, and everything can make the others smaller. Coming back, friends, I would muster courage to tell you a few things from my knowledge, that don't be overawed by the personalities of your senior students, and try to interact with them for your future guidance. Try to learn the art of writing from them. Only follow them which appears to be sensible to you, and have always positive approach. Stay calm, don't react to some seniors' observations. Though anti-ragging is strictly prohibited, we have laid down here and there all the anti-ragging slogans, and it is an offense now. But if you come across some such harsh words of your seniors, just ignore it and take some good things out of them. Always attend classes, and do in your vacations internship with great persons like our chief guest. He is very kind to us to accommodate half a dozen and sometimes even more people, more our law students, to permit internships with him. We are grateful to him that we also, and pursue some hobby. Without hobby, the life becomes bored. Also read your courses books, newspapers. Very recently we have granted admissions here and in the sister college, engineering college, and we admitted 60 students under the management quota, whereas in the entire NCR region, a lot of money was being charged. But it was this institution alone, this Sunshine Society alone, being led by our beloved chairman, Mr. Vipin Sahani. We did not charge a single fee, single capitation fee from anyone. We allowed them on their merit. But what disappointed me was that whenever I might have interviewed at least 40-45 students, I used to ask two things certainly. Whether you read newspapers, everybody said no. Whether do you play any sports, again in negative. Then I would ask, though I admitted them because they scored 90% and above marks, at least they were studious and they were very bright in their fields of studies. But I exhorted them that without these two things, some game must always be played. It may be an indoor game, it may be an outdoor game. And one boy interestingly said, "Sir, I don't play, but I know about football a lot. You can ask any question from me." And when I tested his knowledge, he was really having a lot of knowledge about football. Who was Ronaldo, who won the world match this time, etc., etc. So you must, besides your courses, know what is the outside world, what is going to happen in our society. Yesterday, I am interviewing a student for architecture. I asked what happened in Chennai. Can you tell me? Day before, where the Congress president was there, Mr. Rahul Gandhi, where Prime Minister was there, many chief ministers, must be half a dozen chief ministers, former chief minister, and he did not know. Anyway, this I have put it to inspire you all that you must read newspapers every day. We subscribe for our library. Dozens of dozens of newspapers and the journals of general category, not law journals. And you must derive advantage of our library. We have separate libraries for our law course, exclusively meant for law, and besides other library meant for management and the journalism, etc. So friends, take your exam with all seriousness, and as I said earlier that towards the end of the session, the students who fall short of attendance come, sir, some liberalization may be adopted in our case. But we are reluctant to extend that benevolence to those persons because we are under a pressure of the IB University that minimum 70% attendance is a must for appearing in the end term sessions examination. So please bear in mind that you must be very regular, and you should always respect your teachers, never enter into arguments. There is an old saying that never argue with a lawyer and wife. So you will always stand defeated if you argue with these two. So friends, never argue your teachers. They are knowledgeable than you. They command respect, and they are your teachers, your gurus. Yesterday, Professor M.P. Singh, who has been my guru, came for orientation of another program of BB and I was tempted to touch his feet. He was very happy, and there were a few more students who had taken education, who had taken preachings from him, and he was my teacher some 52 years back. So always respect your teachers. You may not touch your feet because I am an oldie, so I believe in those traditions. Today's generation, they don't believe in it, and it is not necessary also. So friends, I welcome you all new entrants, boys and girls. Be happy, and as Manjula said, you are always welcome, either to her for solving any problems, to me, to our director, or any faculty members. Some of them are your mentors. So be happy and fulfill your goals while being here in India. Thank you so much. God bless you.
Thank you so much for the inspiring words, sir, and I'm sure students are going to keep all of these in mind. And finally, the much awaited moment is here, the moment for which we have been waiting since morning 9 o'clock. So I request our honorable guest to kindly address the gathering and enlighten us all.
Good afternoon to all you young lawyers, lawyers and judges, who knows of tomorrow. Great privilege to be here. It's always a pleasure to be with chairpersons to the Kansani, bubbling with energy, sound always in their eyes, and truly a dreamer. This is Navar Singh, who's been very, very generous with his praise, and I really feel at loss that this so-called eloquence that he uploads in my case was not available to me when he was a judge in the High Court, and I could have tested my eloquence on him and perhaps created a career out of it. But thank you very much for your very, very generous word. Dr. Swami, Professor Manjula Batra, who I've known in her previous avatar, Dr. Bell, Mr. Parashar, who again I've known in his previous avatar, and all you young people and your parents. My first apology to you that I should have been here in the morning, but look at my dedication as a lawyer. Much as I had promised somewhat reluctantly to come in the morning, when the court list arrived and I realized that there were cases early on and there would no way if I was here in the morning that I would be able to fulfill my duties as a lawyer. I requested for this postponement. Thank God for modern technology that all of you could be informed through whatever software you have, WhatsApp or whatever it is. But it also is, in a sense, a test of both you and me. A test that I didn't simply say I have cases I can't come, which I think would have been terrible not to come at all. And a test for you that although you had to get up early and be here for the 9:30 event, the event is actually happening at 3:30, and that despite the fact that there was such a long wait, you're still here. There's hope yet for me and for the world that you're still here. But the fact that you're here after so much time, and your parents, some of your parents are here, does mean that I must make it worth your while. You can't say we waited a whole day for a boring lecture, for a boring speech. And I can't really, you just started your course, I can't really pick something intricate and complicated and begin to lecture you on it and say, look, I give you a little bit of extra assistance to preparing yourself to becoming a lawyer. But let me just say that out of some wonderful things that Justice Bhavar Singh has told you, which are really about being a good human being, a good teacher, a good lawyer, to have confidence in yourself, not to get overawed, to have determination, to have clarity of mind, and to apply yourself seriously. There is one very important secret that he didn't tell you. I know that he must know this as a judge, but there's a secret that judges keep from lawyers. And that secret is that they have a huge repository of humor. And when they get back into their judge's lounge, they talk about us, lawyers, and they say, did you see how he puts his case? And did you see how he uses these words? And he still hasn't figured out that I'm not as serious as I make myself out to be, etc., etc. I have often had a chance to talk to some judges about what do they do when lawyers make very boring speeches. They have to continue to look interested. You're not allowed to sleep on the bench. You can sometimes sleep in the courtroom and pretend you're listening very hard to what is happening. But judges can't sleep. Judges can't sleep because I've heard that in one case, a matter that was being argued before a division bench, suddenly the lawyer stopped saying anything. So the presiding judge looked at him meaningfully, saying, I mean, what is the matter? Why don't you proceed, Mr. Counsel? And this guy said, my lords, I was to appear before a division bench, but it seems that one of you is not here, fast asleep. And therefore, nudging and so on, and the matter then proceeded. So what you have to do is to keep the atmosphere live, and therefore catch the interest and the attention of the judges that you're arguing in front of. And sometimes that's done by using anecdotal stuff, by saying something funny or being funny. But you must really be funny, because if you're not funny, it could go the other way around. When I was young and I was your age as a lawyer, called lawyer, a law student, but in Oxford, law students are always addressed as lawyers, young lawyers. When I was a student at Oxford, some of us went up to meet with a person who, when you read about him, and I think you will discover, was quite an iconic judge of all times, Lord Denning. He was still sitting on the bench. He was then 85 years old or 80 years old. In England at that time, judges didn't have to retire. Now they retire at 75, they didn't have to retire. Like the American Supreme Court, you don't have to retire in the Supreme Court. You can go on till your dying day. But people generally, after about 80 or 90, short of 100, voluntarily retire. So English judges now retire at 75. When he was sitting on the bench, he didn't retire. And we used to have great fun with him because he was called Master of Rolls. You heard a lot of controversies, some of you, if you read your papers, about Master of the Roster, about the Supreme Court judges on who decides which judge will sit to hear a case. But in England it was the Master of Rolls, which was the highest job in the second highest court. The highest court was the House of Lords at that time, which is now the Supreme Court of UK, after the reform that has happened in English law. But it used to be House of Lords, and House of Lords used to be at least 5 judges sitting. Sometimes it used to go up to 7 or 9, but it was a full bench of 5 who used to sit. And the Court of Appeal, of which Lord Denning was the head, had a bench of what we call a full bench here of 3 judges. Now Lord Denning used to get very irked because a lot of Indians used to say, you have something to do with Rolls-Royce. Why is that why you call the Master of Rolls? And he used to always look very impatient, say, when will Indians understand that Master of Rolls is something quite different from Rolls-Royce? Anyway, we went to see him one day because he was such an iconic judge. He was a marvelous, marvelous judge, great icon for all of us. So we went to see him, and it so happened, just on the eve of when we went to see him, a great case had taken place in the UK in which he was involved. So everyone was very keen to find out from him what that case was all about. And this was in the Inns of Court, so there's a little bit of an informal conversation between judges, etc. The case was, it was a case in administrative law, and the case was about a gentleman who had said that he wanted to intervene, like you have a PIL here, they have a relator action in England, which means that you have to first ask the Attorney General for permission. If the Attorney General doesn't give you permission, then you can go to the court and say, I haven't got permission, but I can persuade you that I have the right kind of case in front of you. So there was this gentleman called Gurrier. He was very conservative, he was right-wing, and there was the government of the day that was a Labour government, that was left-wing, and there was a left-wing union of post office workers. And the post office workers had given threat that they would boycott mail going to South Africa because of South Africa indulging in apartheid. And Gurrier, of course, as a right-wing person, opposed to any left-wing policies, had wanted to go to court to say that this is terrible. You can't be boycotting, and the government can't cooperate with a boycott of South Africa. I, as a citizen, have a right that my mail be delivered to South Africa. So he sought permission from the Attorney General. Since the Attorney General was of the Labour Party, he refused him permission, and therefore he went to the High Court, and the High Court was hearing the matter. I think it was about Friday. High Court was hearing the matter late into the afternoon, and for, of course, he wasn't being able to persuade the High Court. Lord Denning was in the Court of Appeal, which is just in the same building. So Lord Denning told his colleague judges that today we will sit late. And they couldn't understand why, because he had finished the work, and he had just told them, stay in your chambers, we may have to sit, so please don't leave. And they couldn't figure out what it was. It was actually the Gurrier case that was going on in the High Court, so it got dismissed. And Gurrier ran to the Court of Appeal, and Denning then convened the Court of Appeal to hear the matter on out of turn, as sometimes it's done in our courts as well. That out of turn, sometimes an oral hearing is given, and then you can come with your paperwork later. So Gurrier appeared before the Court of Appeal. The Court of Appeal was divided. The Court of Appeal was divided. Two of the judges said that we will give you a stay till Monday, temporary stay against the strike, but we want to decide this finally only after hearing the Attorney General on Monday. Denning, who was the presiding judge as Master of Rolls, gave an outright stay and said that I'm staying this strike, and he didn't agree with the other two. So this is what was reported in the newspapers, and I think we were meeting him possibly after a couple of days of that. There was a huge turmoil and a huge amount of noise in the country. Attorney General was summoned to Parliament, and he appeared before Parliament, and everybody said, what's going on in this country? What is going on in this country with the High Court? And the Attorney General said, no worry, no worry. 2 of the judges are with me, only 1 judge is against me. We will go back to court, we'll argue it, and we'll have no problem. So all this has been reported. So when we met Lord Denning. One of us there, a little bit cheeky, said, Lord Denning, what is this about the Attorney General saying only 1 judge is against him and the other 2 were for him? So Lord Denning looked at us very soulfully and said, normally I wouldn't be talking about this, but since you've provoked me and we are in the Inns of Court, I will tell you something. This Attorney General doesn't know cricket, does he? And we were wondering, what is he saying? He doesn't know cricket, does he? I have bowled him middle stump, and he says I'm not out because the other 2 are standing. Now, that's the greatest mind, there's the greatest mind in the world of law that I have come across, Lord Denning, speaking about something that is an interesting conundrum of law, but how simply he put it, that I bowled him middle stump, and he says he's not out because the other 2 are standing. So if you go back and look for old English cases, Gurye versus the Union of Post Office Workers, you will find Queen's Bench Division. There's an interesting judgment, and read Lord Denning. Put it in perspective as to what his conversation told us and what exactly happened in that case. So law is not boring. Law is not as tedious as it seems. It's a very exciting subject. It's a very exciting subject, and you need to be able to see between the lines, between the phrases, between what the tones of law actually tend to suggest that it is just a burdensome and a heavy thing. There are lots of exciting, interesting things that you can work out. And there are things that make you smile, there are things that make you laugh. There are judges who have the delightful manner in which they write their judgments. Some are very poetic, some create law. Justice Krishna Iyer is known to have not only created enormous new areas of law, but also given a new vocabulary to the judicial mind. We have our present Chief Justice, Justice Mishra, who again is a former student of English literature, but some of whose judgments are extremely rewarding in terms of the literary content that you get out of those judgments. And there are judges who indulge in poetry as well. We've had cases, sometimes they are criticized for it, sometimes they are applauded for it, sometimes it adds a little flavor to what they are trying to say when they borrow upon popular poetry to try and explain something of what they're trying to do. We call it one of the Rekta functions. There were 3 former judges who were familiar with Urdu in a panel discussion. I happened to be there in the same panel discussion, and during that discussion, I asked one of them about what is your most vivid memory of Urdu Shairi and writing judgments. And he said we had an extremely, Patna High Court, we had an extremely boring judge, extremely boring lawyer, and I didn't know what to do. He just wouldn't stop. So I started doodling on my judge's notebook, which he says today also must be there in the judge's library. I started doodling on it and writing all the best Urdu shairs that I could remember. And he said, then when we finally pronounced, one of my colleague judges asked me, and he said, what is it that made you write that judgment? There are some Urdu couplets in that judgment, and I don't know what that means. And he said, that actually means I was very bored, and I was writing those judgments because the lawyer just wouldn't stop. But sometimes it gives away a kind of inside reality of what a judge goes through. And I tell you, the most interesting of studies that you can do, there are some eminent judges hear Justice Bauer saying, the most interesting thing that you can do is the study of the mind of a judge. Nobody has figured out. I have spent a whole lifetime pursuing the idea of the mind of a judge. The mind of a judge is not like that of a computer. A judge is not something you feed into and that gives you back an answer. It's not a machine. A judge is a human being. A judge has sentiment. A judge has emotion. A judge has reactions and responses, and yet trained not necessarily to follow their instincts and responses. A judge has to analytically look at material that's given, and a judge knowing something, there is this concept of taking judicial notice of certain facts, but knowing something, the judge may still come to a conclusion that the law doesn't allow him or her to accept what the judge knows, because the analytical version by which materials are placed before the judge, they have to bind that judge to do this in a particular way. There is a brilliant work, and I'm sure that your tutors and teachers will bring you to be aware of it, the brilliant work of a professor who I had the privilege to work with, called Professor Ronald Dworkin, died 2 years ago. And he's worked on the mind of judges. And in his thesis, he takes two kinds of judges. One judge, he has named Hercules. And you can understand what Hercules means. He just has to be superhuman. He has to be a lot more than any ordinary human being can be. And the other judge, he's called Herbert. And he called the other judge Herbert because that he thought referred to H.L.A. Hart, Herbert Hart, who had written the previous thesis about how judges decide cases and the concept of law, and he wanted to debunk this thesis, Dworkin, and therefore Dworkin said, there's a judge called Herbert who doesn't know how to achieve the greater idea of law, whereas there's a judge called Hercules who is able to look for what law really is. And what is law? Is law something that's written on a piece of paper, like legislation? Yes, to begin with, that's what the law is. But then there are words in it which have to be interpreted. And we were generally given the example of somebody being asked, is this man bald? What is your answer? Now, if he has no hair on his head, he is bald. If he has a lot of hair on his head, he is not bald. If he has some hair and not a lot of hair, he is balding. So you can have a bald man and a not bald man and a balding man. But you can't have what Professor Dworkin used to say, a man who is guilty and a man who is not guilty, and yet a man who is guiltless, who is almost guilty but not guilty. Now when you have a man who's guiltless, who's not almost guilty but not guilty, what do you do? Now there is a simple proposition, unless in criminal law you have beyond reasonable doubt proof somebody to be guilty. He may actually be guilty, but the judges don't hold him guilty. That is the law as we know in common law. But conceptually, not only when you're talking about somebody's guilt, but when you're talking about, is this something that you are entitled to do? Is this something which is the right view of the law? Then what do? Do you ask for a referendum? Do you ask ordinary people what do they feel? And on a referendum the judge has to decide? Or you just look at a piece of paper and say, look, I think this is the best thing to do, and therefore your instincts tell you this is the best thing to do, so you do that best thing. But it's when a question comes up before you, which you have to then decide, and there are two competing views, and both seem plausible. How does the judge decide that case? Now, I will leave that for another time and another lecture, because if I gave all of walking to you in your first year and your first day, then there will be nothing left for the 5 years. So I will come back one day and I'll tell you, when there are two conflicting, plausible, possible views between two judges, and both those judges are Hercules, not Herbert and Hercules, how do they decide? And the very concept of how do judges disagree, it's a wonderful, fantastic area. Always read the dissents very carefully. The dissents have a future, and in India, many dissents have become the dominant view of the law many years later, and certainly an interesting thing is happening in the court today, in the Supreme Court, that points of view that were propagated by judges of another generation are being overturned by judges of the present generation. And when I say previous generation and present generation, I'm actually talking about a father and a son, both of whom are Supreme or have been. One is and one has been a Supreme Court judge. But these are further interesting things to talk about in the future. Today, let us just say this is the beginning, where the beginning is, where the first letter of the law, where the first step of a lawyer for a bright, brilliant future. But enjoy yourself for 5 years. These 5 years will never come back again, because once you're out of here, the world doesn't let you stop. There are no pauses, there are no whistle stops at all. This is the time. Work hard and enjoy yourself while these 5 years last. And then at the end of 5 years, we'll be here to say to you goodbye and welcome to a new world. Welcome again today and welcome again 5 years later. Thank you very much. All the best. Good luck.
Thank you so much for sharing your experiences, sir. We all have learned a lot, and it's an honor to listen to you. So now I am delighted to announce that DME, in collaboration with Eastern Book Company, has come up with the Law Journal, and I request the dignitaries to officially launch the journal and release its first edition.
Dean, Dme Law School, Professor Manjula Batra, Justice Parasharji, Justice Behel Saab, my faculty members, parents, and my dear students. It's a great day in your life that Salman sir has blessed you on this orientation program. I start by thanking the chief guest, Salman Khurshid sir. Sir, we had a choice between Salman Khan and Salman Khurshid, and obviously we thought that we said that Salman Khan may be smarter than you, but who other than Mr. Salman Khurshid can be a better guest for an orientation program of law. I thank my chairman Vipin Sani sir for creating this organization called Delhi Metropolitan Education. And well, students, probably you are not aware, but in the recent India Today survey, the Dme Law School has been ranked among the top 25 law schools in India. I thank Justice Bhavar Singh, the mentor of Dme Law School. I thank the Dean of Dme Law School and the Dawn of Jamia Law School, Dr. Manjula Batra. Well, students, let me tell you, now your new dean is there, and I have heard about her reputation at Jamia. She is very strict, so be careful.
Oh my God. That's a monster, please.
Well, students, I thank you for making the right choice. And you have made a right choice for this college, because this is a special college and we have three categories of teachers here. First, professors like Dr. Manjula Batra who teach. Second, people like Justice Bhavar Singh, Justice Behel, Justice Parashar, who have interpreted law. Throughout their lives, they have given judgments, they have interpreted law. And the third and the most important category is mentors like Salman Khurshid sir, who have been lawmakers. So you are lucky to be in a school where we have three categories of teachers: those who teach, those who interpret law, and those who make law. Well, my dear students, I'll just ask you a question. I'll take back you to 1947. What was common between Mahatma Gandhi, Jawaharlal Nehru, Sardar Patel, Gopal Krishna Gokhale? What was common between them? Yes, all of them were law graduates. So yes, welcome to this Dme Law School, where tomorrow you will be Mahatma Gandhi, you will be Jawaharlal Nehru, you will be Sardar Patel. Thank you.
Enthusiastic address, sir. So thank you everyone, and I now request everyone to rise for the national anthem.
पंजाब सिंध गुजरात मराठा द्राविड़ उत्कल बंगा विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्चल जलधि तरंगा तब शुभ नामे जागे तब शुभ आशीष मांगे गाए तब जय